Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Flex alert of the year could come this week. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. A heat wave in Northern California is putting pressure on the state's electric grid. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman says residents could be asked to help conserve energy this week.
San Diegans haven't seen a flex alert yet this year, but one could be coming. State power grid operators are monitoring a heat wave up in Northern California that's been driving up energy use. San Diego hasn't seen temperatures rising dramatically, but because the power grid is interconnected, residents could be asked to conserve energy if demand outweighs supply. On Tuesday, grid operators said energy supplies are expected to cover higher demand this week.
Things can change, so it's always good to be prepared.
Alex Welling is a communications manager with San Diego Gas and Electric. He says if a flex alert is issued, residents will be asked to reduce their electric use to avoid a situation that could end up in rolling blackouts. He says those are not anticipated, but people should be prepared for the unexpected.
What I mean by that is, God forbid, there's a fire that takes out a transmission line up in Northern California, or some other natural disaster emergency happens that takes out a source of power, then we have to kind of rethink what we're doing.
Again, grid operators say energy supplies should cover higher than average electric use. But if that changes and rolling blackouts are needed, state officials would tell utilities like SDG&E to start shedding load. SDG&E officials say people should have updated contact information because if rotating outages come, residents will be notified via a call or text. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Well, intense heat is building as you head a little bit further inland, and we do have a heat advisory in place for inland areas, but it's not just this area that we are concerned about. We also have excessive heat warnings as we start to get even further inland into the deserts, and so it is going to be exceptionally hot over these next few days. We'll show you how high temperatures go and when we'll see some relief.
As the death toll continues to rise in the aftermath of Maui's wildfires, authorities are expected to begin releasing the names of victims after families have been notified. Only a quarter of the burn area had been searched as of yesterday. Gloria Pazmino has the latest.
It's unclear how many people remain unaccounted for as the death toll on Maui continues to rise.
It will go up very significantly.
The president addressing the federal response on Tuesday.
I've spoken to Governor Josh Green multiple times and reassured him the state will have everything it needs from the federal government.
Residents who want to return home to assess the damage are facing challenges.
It's just hard and unbelievable.
Outside West Maui, frustrated family members are waiting. Officials suspended an access plan after just one day, saying too many non-residents and others tried to get entry.
My dad's still there. There's certain things that he still needs that we need to get to him specifically, like medicine.
If people go into ground zero too soon, our responders, our FEMA folks, will not be able to do the job that they are there to do.
The entire catastrophic chain of events and the official response now the focus of a state investigation.
I've personally authorized a comprehensive review so we have every answer going forward.
For now, the island spirit of family has given many survivors hope.
It's a big ohana here on the island, so everyone's doing the same thing. We're all chipping in. We're doing our best.
Gloria Pazmino, KPBS News.
The clock is ticking in Georgia for former President Donald Trump and 18 others to voluntarily surrender. This after a 41-count indictment out of Fulton County. Ivan Rodriguez reports.
Former President Donald Trump now facing his fourth indictment this year The latest charges are out of Fulton County, Georgia, where Trump and 18 other defendants are named in a 41-count indictment stemming from their alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election. The defendants include Trump lawyer Rudy Giuliani and former Trump White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows.
The defendants engaged in a criminal racketeering enterprise to overturn Georgia's presidential election result.
Former President Trump now facing 91 charges in 4 different cases, railing against the latest indictment, telling Fox News Digital, quote, "This politically inspired indictment, which could have been brought close to 3 years ago, was tailored for placement right smack in the middle of my political campaign."
He's not convicted yet, and he is innocent until proven guilty.
Prosecutor Fonnie Willis says the charges are not politically motivated. She plans to try all 19 defendants together and will propose a trial date within the next 6 months.
I make decisions in this office based on the facts and the law. The law is completely nonpartisan. That's how decisions are made in every case.
Trump and the 18 other defendants have been given until noon next Friday, August 25th, to turn themselves in.
We've planned for months to really understand the day-to-day really coverage of what this looks like. And I've said this before, we're ready.
Ivan Rodriguez, KPBS News.
Today's the last day for voters to submit their ballot in the special election for County Supervisor District 4. So when can you expect to hear the results? Well, the county says the first unofficial results will come when vote centers close at 8 o'clock tonight. This will include early voting at centers and mail ballots received before Election Day. The final election night update may not come in until 10 o'clock tonight or even later. After, the next release of unofficial results will be posted by 5 p.m. on August 17th.
We have 14 vote centers open across the district. They're open until 8 p.m. You could check sdvote.com. We have a complete list and a locator map. So if you live in District 4 and you haven't voted yet, come on out and vote.
You can also drop off your mail ballot at any of 29 official drop boxes around the district. Final results must be certified by September 24th, and if no candidate receives a majority of the votes, the top 2 will participate in a runoff election November 7th. All updates will be posted on sdvote.com. Well, providers of homeless services in Chula Vista say they are seeing an influx of people experiencing homelessness and seeking services. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer says the surge comes after San Diego's unsafe camping ordinance took effect 3 weeks ago, and providers are overwhelmed.
Normally that food lasts us Monday through Friday, but right now we're running out Wednesday and sometimes we're running out midday.
It's been a rush of people coming down from San Diego looking for food, shelter, showers, and other homeless services throughout South Bay and at Community Through Hope. Sebastian Martinez is the executive director of the Chula Vista nonprofit organization.
On a day-to-day basis, we're serving anywhere from 40 to 60 people that are coming in for a variety of services, whether it be nutrition, hygiene, whatever. But in the recent weeks, that number has doubled. On some days, even tripled, depending on how intense the need is.
People need places to stay. Where are they going to stay at?
Daniel Ness has frequented Community Through Hope for over 2 years. He didn't want to show his face on camera, but told KPBS that tensions have been high over the past few weeks.
It's a revolving door. There's people in this area that they come and go. They haven't been here as long as I have, a lot of them.
Chula Vista Mayor John McCann says he's aware of the increase in people accessing homeless services, and the city is considering different ways to address the situation.
At the last city council meeting, I went ahead and made a motion with a unanimous consensus of my fellow council members to look at the ordinance and see what we could potentially implement in the city of Chula Vista.
Martinez disagrees with Chula Vista implementing a similar ban to San Diego, but doesn't see the need for homeless services in South Bay slowing down. Complicating matters is the fact that service and shelter options in the region are extremely limited.
When they get here to Chula Vista, we have to break it to them where if they were waiting perhaps, to get into a shelter in San Diego, they're not going to get into a shelter in Chula Vista. There is only one option, and it's currently at capacity.
Martinez says the steep increase in people seeking help may force Community Through Hope to change their model and schedule in order to maintain the capacity and quality of their services. He says any donations and volunteers help. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
Investigators are looking into what sparked a fire that destroyed a Planned Parenthood health center in El Centro. The fire department said it started at a Salvation Army storage yard before 2 o'clock this morning and then spread to the building next door. No one was hurt, but the fire caused substantial damage. The president and CEO of Planned Parenthood of the Pacific Southwest issued a statement, and in it she says the health center has been a beacon for access to quality and compassionate sexual and reproductive health in a medically underserved area, and it has served as a safe haven for people traveling from other states to access care that they couldn't get elsewhere. She also added they are committed to rebuilding. The March of Dimes has a new report on maternity care in California. KPBS reporter Katie Hyson spoke with a local manager about what the report does and does not reveal.
California is rapidly losing birthing hospitals. More than 1 in 5 closed in recent years. This year, hospitals in Poway, Oceanside, and El Centro closed their maternity wards. Local March of Dimes manager Jessica Wade says hospital closures contributed to a startling statistic. Last year in the U.S., 1 in 10 babies were born before their due date.
That is the highest that the March of Dimes has ever reported.
Wade's son was born premature in what she describes as a low-access area. During his 143 days in the NICU, Wade says her family lost everything.
House, cars, jobs, like everything we could lose, we lost. And there were really days where we were like, okay, are we going to take the train to see our son who's 90 miles away, or are we going to get groceries?
Fewer providers means more money and time to see a doctor. And Wade says those barriers hit hardest among Black and Indigenous people in low socioeconomic areas. The report marks Imperial County as a low-access area, and that was before the closure at El Centro. Though San Diego County is marked as full access, county-level data can mask disparities between zip codes and miss nuances, like how many people cross into Mexico for care. Katie Hyson, KPBS News.
A 21-year-old Sikh man is the first to graduate from Marine Corps boot camp wearing his articles of faith, his beard, and turban. KPBS military reporter Andrew Dyer has the story.
Newly minted Marines from Golf Company march at the San Diego Marine Corps Recruit Depot. Among them, Private First Class Jaskirat Singh, an observant Sikh who won the right to wear his beard and turban through training in a lawsuit. Singh is the latest Sikh to win the right to keep his articles of faith through boot camp, and the first to do so in the Marines. He says Marine Corps and Sikhi values align.
Like, we have honor in wearing our turban, keeping our beard, the courage. I mean, Sikhi is a very warrior-oriented religion. I mean, if you go through history, you'll find out a lot about that. And then commitment in the Marine Corps, and then you have commitment to faith in Sikhi.
Giselle Clapper is the deputy legal director of the Sikh Coalition, which brought the lawsuit. She says Sikhs should not have to give up an important part of their faith to serve.
His case is yet another point of proof that the Sikh Articles of Faith do not inhibit capable service across the U.S. military.
Marine Corps and Navy are the last holdouts in the military when it comes to Sikh articles of faith. Prior lawsuits forced the Army and Air Force to accommodate them, with the latest being the Air Force in 2019. The Marine Corps falls under the Navy, which is facing a separate lawsuit. Andrew Dyer, KPBS News.
A nationwide teacher shortage has forced many school districts to get creative with their recruitment strategies. California superintendent held a summit yesterday. The state already had a teacher shortage before the pandemic, but nearly a third of those who retired in that time frame say COVID drove them to retire early. They also blame low pay. With that in mind, a new bill looks to raise wages for all school staff 50% over the next 6 years.
We need to make sure that educators can afford to live and own a home within the communities they teach.
It is all about the students and building the community where they can learn and grow.
And the state is offering a $20,000 scholarship to people who want to get a teacher's degree. Other incentives are also in the works. Many kids across the country are headed back to class, and some experts are predicting an increase in back-to-school spending this year. That's along with a slight slowdown in inflation. Amanda Sansoni has a look at how much more parents are spending and tips to save some cash.
New school year, new expenses. Parents are shelling out more cash in 2023 to send their kids back to class. According to a new Retail Me Not survey, the average American household will spend $1,498 on back-to-school supplies, electronics, and clothes. That's $251 more than last year's spending average. Just like with everything else that costs more, experts say parents can blame inflation.
It adds up so fast. It's kind of like Christmas. We're buying 100 different things from 100 different vendors, and it's so easy to lose track.
So, what can you do to save money and avoid a back-to-school spending hangover? Jessica Allen from the website Living Well, Spending Less has 5 tips. 1, take inventory of what you already have, and then decide what you really need right now, and put the rest on a wish list. 2, set a budget, and then involve your kids with the shopping.
The easiest way to do this is to give them the cash. This is a life skill. The budgeting is a life skill, and actually paying for items at the counter and interacting with the service staff.
3, buy in bulk and split the cost with other parents, neighbors, or friends. 4, stretch those electronics a bit longer instead of splurging on new ones.
Look into items that you can swap or pass down. Is there a graduated senior who no longer needs that graphing calculator?
And finally, wait for the shopping rush to pass.
Wait until your children get into their classes and see what the teacher is actually asking for.
For Consumer Watch, I'm Amanda Sansoni.
Rising temperatures can have a significant impact on many aspects of life, including your sleep. Well, Mandy Gaither has an expert's top 10 tips for getting better sleep in the heat.
If the temperature outside has you tossing and turning inside, you're not alone.
Higher nighttime temperatures tend to increase wakefulness during the night, as well as decrease deep sleep and REM sleep.
Michelle Drerup with the Sleep Disorder Center at Cleveland Clinic says those stages of sleep are critical to help the body repair and restore itself at night. So disrupting sleep can have a major impact on your life. While catching those Z's in the heat can be tricky, what you wear to bed can help.
Typically kind of loose cotton clothing or not wearing anything to sleep tends to be better versus synthetics.
That goes for bedding, too. Drerup says to pick sheets that are more cooling and don't trap the heat. While everyone's different, she says an ideal room temperature for sleep is between 63 and 67 degrees. And stay hydrated throughout the day, but limit liquids about 2 hours before bed so you won't have to go to the bathroom at night. Avoid alcohol, which can dehydrate you and disrupt sleep. Use shades or fans to keep the bedrooms as cool and dark as possible during the day so it's not as hot at night. And think about taking a lukewarm or cool shower before bed. Drerup says you can also get better sleep by sticking to a regular sleep schedule, winding down before bed, and finally making sure your last meal of the day is light.
Avoiding, higher sugar, high carbs, high fats. That can potentially disrupt sleep.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
California and other western states have a little bit more slack when it comes to water use. Federal officials announced today that they are easing cuts for states that rely on the Colorado River. Last year's rain and snowfall pulled much of the region out of the drought and raised water levels at key reservoirs. There's still a water shortage, but officials say it's a vast improvement of this year's first ever Tier 2 shortage.
Well, we'll start you off with your weather headlines, what you need to know over these next few days. The big story is going to be the heat. That heat is going to continue to build through the middle of the week. It is going to be sweltering in a few areas. We are going to be staying mostly dry across the deserts and mountains, but we cannot rule out a stray thunderstorm or two, especially as we are dealing with some instability across the deserts and the mountainous terrain. Late week cooling and increased moisture is going to bring those temperatures temperatures down, but of course it's going to increase the chances for showers across the region. Now, we do have a heat advisory in effect that's going to extend for areas further inland from Beaumont down through Julian and Pine Valley. Heat advisory in effect there, but we also have an excessive heat warning as we make our way further inland towards the desert. So temperatures are going to be extremely hot. You don't want to play around with this. Those heat advisories and warnings are in effect until Thursday evening. Tonight we're dropping down to a low of 69 around San Diego, but Oceanside, look at that as we head into tomorrow. We're rising to the 80s, similar story in San Diego, and then of course even flirting with the triple-digit teens in areas like Borrego Springs, but a thunderstorm still going to be possible in areas like Mount Laguna. I want to show you how this is going to play out. Again, it's not going to be overly widespread, but a few thunder showers possible to start to pop up during the afternoon. This is by Wednesday afternoon around 1:15 p.m. Pacific time. Similar story even as we head into the late afternoon, early evening hours. Now, 5-day outlook along the coast. Well, Wednesday, Thursday, highs in the 80s. Dropping back down to the 70s by Friday and Saturday, back up to 80, and it's going to be humid on Sunday. Inland, well, highs in the 90s, so it's going to be toasty outside before we start to take a dip down to the 80s again through the beginning of the weekend, but we'll see a slight rise by Sunday. The mountains, well, stray shower possible even throughout Wednesday, 73 for the high, but then we do start to dry out for the most part, but then those storm chances come back into the picture by Sunday. And in the deserts, well, an isolated thunderstorm still possible, but highs remaining in the triple digits until Saturday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Bree Guy.
Cows and other livestock can be major contributors to carbon emissions that warm up our planet. But some scientists are saying that they can be part of the solution to combat climate change. Bill Weir explains.
In the beginning was the buffalo. Tens of millions of them wandering the land, munching wild grasses, and using poop and hooves to create rich, fertile soil up to 15 feet deep. Look at this. Yeah. But since Americans replaced buffalo with cows, generations of fertilizers and pesticides, tilling and overgrazing have turned much of that nutrient-rich soil into lifeless dirt. But not on farms, where they graze cows just like wild buffalo.
Well, so adaptive multi-paddock grazing, AMP grazing, is a way that mimics the way bison have moved across the Great Plains. And so it's really about the animals hit an area really hard, and then they leave it for a long time.
Peter Bick is a professor at Arizona State University, and he believes that if enough beef and dairy operations copy this simple hack, cattle could actually become an ally in the fight against climate change.
I anticipate we'll get a lot of pushback because people are not thinking that cows can be a part of the solution.
Not only are you going against the grain of environmentalists who think meat is evil for lots of reasons, you took money from McDonald's for this.
Yeah, I asked for money from McDonald's for this. I wanted to go to big companies because if they don't change, we don't get there.
For his docu-series, Roots So Deep You Can See the Devil Down There, Bick assembled a team of scientists.
We're really interested in insects that live in poop.
Experts in bugs and birds. Yes, bobwhite. Cows, soils, and carbon. They spent years comparing 5 sets of neighboring farms in the southeast. On one side, traditional grazers who let cows roam one big field for months at a time and often cut fertilized grass for hay.
Woo! Come on!
On the other side, AMP grazers who never mow or fertilize.
You open a gate, they go through, it takes 5 minutes, Cooper roll up a wire.
And with a single line of electrical fence, move their cows from one patch of high grass to the next.
That's building fence. This is how easy it is, Peter.
While their science is yet to be published and peer-reviewed, Bick says early data has found AMP farms pulling down up to 4 times the carbon, while holding 25% more microbes, 3 times the bird life, and twice as much rain per hour.
If it's a 1,000-acre farm, it's 54 million gallons of water. That's now washing your soil away versus soaking into your land.
Wow! Look at this grass!
But this is also a human experiment to see whether data and respectful discussion can change hearts and minds.
This was grazed about 40 days ago, and this hadn't been fertilized in 12 years.
Awesome. And when we got out of spending money on fertilizer, it was huge, huge. And I didn't think it would ever happen.
It is such a stress relief. We just don't worry about a lot of it anymore.
And then you don't even fertilize when you plant your ryegrass.
Nothing. It sounds crazy, but just letting Mother Nature do the work.
Would it be an interesting thing if you didn't have to pay for fertilizer?
Would that be wonderful? Curtis Spangler is one of the conventional farmers in Roots So Deep, and he says his mind was changed when he realized he now has a way to double his herd and quit his second off-farm job.
And right now, we're having to dump thousands of dollars into nitrogen every year that really, if we just change a couple things, we might be able to save that money to put it toward other resources.
Is that something you're committed to doing now as a result of this project?
We're really looking and seeing the benefits of it and how we can work it.
So as we hit the height of grilling season, a little food for thought.
There is ways to produce meat that is not good for the planet. And there's ways to produce meat that's really good for the planet. And that's the nuance that's been missing.
And that was Bill Ware reporting. And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. NPR's Morning Edition has details on confidential files from the U.S. government that reveal poor treatment of those held at ICE detention centers. And then be sure to get the latest from KPBS News delivered right into your inbox. Breaking news, arts, and our top headlines are all available as newsletters. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Previs Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.